Okay, Matt, back with another Fan and the Fanatic episode. We we're still having a little bit of scheduling conflicts with our UH experts, so hopefully
I
we'll get them
know.
on next week,
Hunter, come on, dude.
or the following week, sometime, hopefully before uh we get to the Diamond Head Classic. But hey, it's all good. I mean, the season's over. We're not really in a rush. Um, and I'm not really gonna forget anything about the UH football season in the next month. So I'm not in a rush or anything, but yeah, hopefully we'll get him on soon or sooner rather than later, I should say. Um, but regardless of that, we still have a lot of stuff to talk about with the CFP. We still have a lot of NFL movement in the AFC. Good for my team, but we'll get to that later. As usual, Matt, why don't we start off with your Cowboys, how they did this weekend? Offense still looking really good. Defense, a little bit shaky this week, or last week, I should say, on Thursday night, but came away with the victory nonetheless. But I don't know. You must have been feeling a little bit uneasy during that one. What's the overall
Oh,
takeaway from that?
I was sweating. I don't know if this was the most stressful. Maybe this one and the Philly game, the first Philly game. But this one, I was not, I could say, smooth sailing like how I've been used to for the past few weeks. Dallas just blowing out everybody. I can just kick back, relax, enjoy some Cooper Rush time in the fourth quarter. Yeah, this was not the case because I think my defense kind of forgot to show up for a game. I mean, 35 points. First off, I think the spread going into the game was like 9, which was outrageous because I think that's very disrespectful to Seattle. I know they got killed by the Niners the week before, but I still think they're a quality team. Kind of just sucks that they have a probably the hardest schedule like in the NFL within these next like 4 weeks. They have to go to the Niners, Cowboys, and then they got the Niners again, and they got the Eagles. So, good luck to you guys there. But, they're still a good team. And I was thinking, this is probably going to be, one possession game, but like a 20, like a mid 20s kind of game. I was not expecting 41 from the Cowboys and sure was not expecting a 35-point outbreak from Seattle. I mean, they had Geno Smith looking like 2013 Peyton Manning, which is kind of scary. But, you brought it up. The defense in this game was concerning, to say the least, for about 3 quarters. Uh, it was kind of a shock because for really the whole year, they've done a pretty good job of managing around the injury with Trayvon Diggs. And the emergence of Deron Bland kind of covered that for a little bit. But I think this game kind of exposed that weakness for us. I mean, Trayvon Diggs kind of shows why he's our best corner. You, you could make a case he's our first best defensive player, but definitely, top two on the team with the healthy Micah Parsons. But he was missed. He was dearly missed in this game because Seattle had a guy named DK Metcalf who went crazy, but really against one guy in Deron Bland. That was kind of the matchup Seattle was really attacking throughout the game. They weren't even looking at whoever was going on Gilmore. It was whoever is on Bland, I'm throwing the ball to him. And I don't know why Dan Quinn waited to the half to make this adjustment, but they just left him on him the entire first half, and he was getting cooked. I think he had the worst first half in the NFL per stat, like at least by stats, by a DB this season, which is pretty insane because he was the player of the month defensively for November. But that was a bit concerning because, they didn't do a good job guarding the pass. And I thought some blame needs to be on Dan Quinn for this one. And really the coaching, but we can talk about that. But Dan Quinn, I thought he had a terrible game as a coordinator. I know he's kind of like our savior, or he doesn't deserve any bashing, but I mean, I got to be honest, he kind of waited a little bit too long to make that change. And Metcalf, he's obviously going to feast on these smaller defensive backs. So why were you waiting so long to make that switch and allow Gilmore to travel? I mean, Gilly likes to stay on one side of the field typically, but you got to be able to adjust quicker, I think. I mean, he did eventually make that change and it worked out for us, but I just thought he waited way too long. And then bad situational management by DQ as well. Late in the first half, right? Seattle kind of in field goal range, right? They had no timeouts. You're kind of just conceding the field goal at the end of the first half. So all you got to do, keep everything in front, tackle. If they kick a field goal, so be it, because you can go into the half with the lead. You just cannot give up the touchdown over your head, which would end up being a deficit for us at the half. And sure enough, that's exactly what happened, right? They pick on Bland again. Smith and Jigma gets deep. I mean, it was a touchdown at first, called back from a or with the incompletion, but there was a penalty and all this commotion. But basically, they got the ball at the one and they scored. But how do you allow Deron Bland to get isolated like that in that situation? Shouldn't you be keeping two guys back in that situation? Because all you're doing is protecting the touchdown in that situation. If they want to throw it 15 yards, fine, tackle them, make them make the kick, and you go into the half with the lead. So Dan Quinn, that needs to be called out because you cannot do that in the postseason. Points like that that wins and loses you games in the postseason against good teams. Let me tell you that. But you know, speaking of coaching, Mike McCarthy, kind of a guy who's been doing pretty well so far in terms of game management, making decisions. This was another, yeah, this is kind of what I expect from Mike McCarthy, kind of botching the calls, not knowing what to do situationally. Defensively, right? Second half, we come out, Bland gets an interception. We're trying to come back in the game. We have a chance to take the lead down by 2. And in fourth down and short, you end up trying to go for it instead of taking the points. I'm a guy who always believes when you get a turnover, you got to get something. I know you want the touchdown to really get the momentum, but when you're down by, especially you're down by 2, you have a chance to get the lead when Seattle has been pretty much dominating the game to that point. You got to get the lead and put pressure on Seattle. But Mike McCarthy decides, let's go for it. Granted, it was a pretty good play call. I like the play call, but I just don't like the situational awareness. I think you got to take points. And then, late in the game, probably the worst one. You have the lead. Seattle has no timeouts. Run the ball, just burn the clock, kick the field goal, and defend the touchdown. But Mike McCarthy, not only does he call a pass, he calls a go route. All you got to do is you got to get 3 yards and you ice the game. You can take a knee, nail out the clock. Why do you need to call a go route? You're not trying to score a touchdown. You're trying to get 3 yards to ice the game or just run the clock. You gave Geno Smith the ball back with 1:48 by just throwing that pass. All you could have did was you could have ran the ball, or if you're going to pass, at least make it a high percentage, a screen, a very, a rub route into the flat, something simple, like short, easy completion. That's the kind of pass you got to make if you're going to throw it. But you decide to call a go route, that stops the clock. So instead of running the ball, you take it down to maybe, a minute? You kick the field goal. That's another 5 seconds. Plus, maybe you kick the ball off. They try to return it. You tackle them, burn another 5 seconds. You could have gave Seattle the ball back with under a minute left, but instead you give them an extra minute, really. So, things like that needs to be cleaned up. So I thought the coaching was not good. It really wasn't good. Defensively for 3 quarters was not good. But championship defenses, like I say, it's all about the moments, right? And they stepped up when the moment was biggest. 3 straight fourth down stops in the fourth quarter. You give your offense a chance, they capitalize. And Micah Parsons, what else can I say about this guy? I don't need him to get sacks, but it's like when you need a big play, your stars need to show up and do it in that moment. And this is really what this game was about. Micah Parsons, pretty quiet game, not really, nobody's saying anything. Al Michaels wasn't calling his name at all until 4th and 2 with the game on the line. He gets the pressure, forces the incompletion. That's what makes this kid so special. That's what makes this defense special to me, is when their back is against the wall, I trust that they're going to make a play because I got that guy number 11 on the field and he's a big time playmaker. So that was huge for me. That was huge. So the defense, shaky to start, but they closed out strong, which is what I can live with. It's not about how you start. It's about how you finish the game. They finished strong. But man, this game was really about the offense. I saw some emerging stars again. Jake Ferguson, kind of the emerging guy for this team right now. I was really high on him when the Cowboys drafted him 2 years ago. I was like, yeah, this is a solid pick because I think he fits better than Dalton Schultz. I could not stand Dalton Schultz. You know that. I complain about him all the time. I thought he was the softest tight end I've ever watched on a Dallas Cowboy football team. I don't want a guy like that. I need a physical tight end who's willing to get dirty in the run blocking schemes and a guy who's going to lower the shoulder and try to break tackles. And this kid does exactly that. And he's not going to back down from anybody. I think that's such a huge thing because the Cowboys kind of get caught up in the name, the brand, right? We're the pretty boys. But, when you got Jake Ferguson standing up to Jamal Adams, taunting him, like getting in his face, like, yeah, we're a different team now. We're not going to back down from anybody. You got him and you got the quarterback, Dak Prescott, giving the shoulder shrugs to, the Seattle DBs and whatnot. Yeah, that's what I'd like to see. And that guy, speaking of number 4, I don't know. I thought this was probably his best game of the season. I mean, he has been on a heater these past few weeks, and I've been very critical of him for about a year, maybe. I don't know, year and a half ish. Because I've
I think it's
said,
been a while since
you think
after
so?
2016, you've been pretty critical. So
So,
let's say like 6 years.
okay, I was trying to be a little nicer for myself, but okay, 6 years. But the reason why I get so upset about this guy is because in the big moments when we need him, he shrivels, he crumbles under the pressure. But this game, this is exactly what we need. And I'm not talking about he was great. 299 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks, no turnovers. That's fantastic, right? But, as a quarterback, you're going to throw a pick. You're like, that happens. But it's like, when does that moment happen or when does it not happen? And this game was all about Dak because we needed him to really take this game over. The defense couldn't stop anybody, but he kept pace with Seattle and he gave us a chance. And the defense finally got a couple stops at the end, and he needed that one drive, and we needed him to say, Dak, we're down a touchdown. We're down 5. You got to take us home, get us in the end zone. And that drive was perfect. He was outstanding. Outstanding job by Mr. Prescott. And I don't really get that kind of feeling because I felt like in this game, most of the time when the Cowboys are losing, it's like, oh my gosh, like, I don't know, like, they're not going to make it. But there was something about when Dak got on the field and I was like, they're down 5. Like, I was like, they're going to get this in. Like, I'm feeling Dak right now. I mean, he just looks different. His body language, in control. I was like, he's going to get this in. I was stressing, but I was feeling confident too. And he delivered. But that's exactly what we need from him. Just those moments. That's what makes him, the $40 million man that he is. Deliver in those big moments. That's how you earn the paycheck. And he earned every penny of that in this game. So I want to commend Dak Prescott. Without him, we don't win this game. He was outstanding. But it's going to get harder every game from now. You got the Eagles next week, and then we got the AFC East gauntlet, Detroit, right? So some tough opponents coming up, but a perfect start to kind of the gauntlet run of this schedule for the Cowboys. And I think he should be the MVP at this point. I don't think Brock Purdy should be. I think Dak Prescott should be MVP at this point. So that's my. I know I went kind of long today. It's kind of shocking.
That's
I thought
okay.
I was gonna be quick, but I got really amped up about the defense. But Dak Prescott, man, he playing so well. I love the man right now. I was like ready to throw him in the trash last year, but love this guy. He's playing well. He plays like this. I don't care if we're on the road. I don't care if we're a wild card or division winner. If he plays like this, I like my chances against any team. So I'm a happy Cowboy fan. We can talk about this game later because the Eagles lost too. So it's like a perfect weekend for me in the NFL.
Yeah, I just to piggyback off the Dak Prescott points, I also feel that this year with Dak, it's a little bit different, and I can't quite put my finger on it. It's more of a feeling thing. It's not like I'm seeing anything, you know, amazing. I mean, he is playing extremely well, but it's like you said, the vibe around Dak now, where before he's had years where he's put up good numbers, right? That year, I think that was 2 seasons ago when the defense was absolutely bottom tier in the league, right? Before Dan Quinn. And he was putting up a bunch of numbers, but it was always like, are they gonna win the game? When he has the ball at the end, not
It was the
sure.
empty calorie yards,
Right,
right? When they're
right,
down 2 possessions, he's padding his stats, making it look closer than it seems.
right. And so I feel like now, and it's just a feeling, but I do feel that confidence that, when Dak has the ball now, it's not, oh, don't throw a pick, Dak, or oh no, don't do this. It's like, okay, let's go score, let's go get it. Um, and yeah, just especially in this game, I feel the same about what you said with Dak. So MVP, I think it's hard. It honestly is hard to argue against Dak being the MVP right now. I think because I know Purdy is the betting favorite right now, I believe, after this weekend. But I still think that because of the roster that Purdy has, um, I mean, offensively is one thing, but the defense, I think, has returned to their top tier form. And, they still have a majority of their guys. They did lose Hufunga, which is a big loss for them. He's all pro. But I still think that roster, top to bottom, is the best in football. And I just think that does unfortunately hurt MVP chances. Like when you talk about MVP, we talk about this every year. Was the MVP? Is it the best player? Is it you know, you trying to really define most valuable to a team? It's kind of a toss up, but I think it's hard to argue that Dak is not either leading the race or he's easily a top three candidate in my eyes with how he's been playing this year, especially as of late. So I agree with the MVP talk there. But yeah, good to see Dak finally gets making that contract worth it, huh? So it's
Well, the only downside of him playing so well is he's gonna get a contract extension next year, and it's probably gonna be the highest paid contract in the NFL. So it's like, best of like, do you want him to kind of suck a little bit so his price goes down? But you know what? Hey, I don't care. If you play like this and you take us home, it's a blank check. You ask for whatever money you want, and we'll give it to you. You deliver us this Super Bowl.
I agree. I agree. Okay. Well, why don't we move on here? We'll get to my team really quick. Um, So Dolphins taking on the Commanders in DC, and I mean it really wasn't close from the jump. This one offense did their thing. I mean Tua and Tyreek had 5 catches for 157 yards. So that's a pretty good average, I would say. Two touchdowns. He had a 78-yard touchdown and like a 60 something yard touchdown. Um, Interesting way I thought Washington was choosing to play defense
Yeah,
against
why is
Tyreek.
Tyreek Hill one on the outside? Like,
I don't
can
know.
come
I'm
on,
not
Ron
sure,
Rivera.
but you know what? I'll take it as a Dolphins fan, obviously. But I just thought complete game. Um, really like to see them take care of business. And I'll start with the offense, obviously. I thought Tua, last week coming off the bye, just wasn't quite as sharp as I had seen him this year. So looking or with seeing how he played this past week, I was very impressed, very pleased to see him back in form, hitting guys in stride, making the right decisions, and no turnovers, which is the best part of, I think, this game offensively, because we know this team can score, right? Quick strike, you got Tyreek, you got Jalen Waddle, Mostert, Achan, like we have speed, we can hit the home run at any time, but you want to see the clean execution, and that's what I was the most pleased with from this offense on Sunday. He made good decisions. None of those real like ooh, like you kind of hold your breath throws. Um, all the throws, were good windows, good decisions on time, which is exactly what you want to see. And especially, not to discredit Washington, but they were 4-8 going into this one. This was a game we should have won, right? I think the spread was like double digits. So definitely a heavy Miami favored one, but that's what you have to do against a team you're supposed to beat. You go out and you show that you beat them, right? Um, Everyone's calls the Dolphins, oh, they're frauds because they only beat bad teams, blah blah blah. But it's hard to win in this league, as we've seen. We'll get to tonight, for example. But um, it's hard to win against any team, especially this late in the year, right? Where everyone is still fighting for something, job security, playoff chances, uh, staying in the NFL. So I think, I'm not trying to discredit this win at all, but I'm glad to see they did take care of business. And yeah, Tua just looked sharp. And that was what I was most impressed with, I would say. So looking to see good things moving forward. And then, I believe they said this was the eighth different combination of offensive linemen we've had this year through 11 games. So I think for Tua not to get sacked, not only is it a tip of the cap to the offensive linemen on this team who have played well, throughout the course of the year, but also to Mike McDaniel and to Tua for, getting the ball out fast, not putting him in harm's way. And I like that I saw some of the wiggle from Tua. He's playing off script, which is a lot of what the analysts on ESPN are saying, right? Oh, you take away his first read, he can't do anything. You make him move outside the pocket, he can't do anything. But I saw him move a lot, saw him move within the pocket, avoid free rushers, and this was a sharp game. Like this might have been his sharpest game, honestly. I know there's a Denver game, but this one he just looked clean, he looked comfortable the whole way through, and got to tip my cap to two. I thought, like to see him playing like this in December. But also, the run game got going, 123 yards on the ground. We threw it only 25 times and we ran it 34 times. So that's, going to be a recipe for success moving forward, especially as we get into the winter months. As you know, a little bit harder to throw with the cold air, but yeah, just a good performance overall. Defense did their thing. Andrew Van Ginkel, have to shout him out. He's the guy. Him and Ogba, like I said last week, were the two. More so, I think I said more so Ogba, but yeah, Andrew Van Ginkel, who's been playing well for us the entire year. He had a pick six on Sam Howell, jumped a screen or like a bubble screen, looked like. Just great recognition, and you don't make plays like that without putting in work in the film room. I feel like, yeah, you can have great instincts, but to recognize that play and execute and capitalize on the opportunity, I think just speaks volume to this defense and to the depth that we have, which is probably the most, I guess, like take it with a grain of salt thing with this defense because we lose Jalen Phillips. We also lose Jerome Baker, our middle linebacker. Sounds like he's going to be week to week now. So hopefully we can have guys step up there. Javon Holland was also out this game, and I just thought that this team really feels like they're willing to step up. When one of their guys goes down, key guys go down. Um, it's just a next man up mentality, and the camaraderie within this team is looking really good. And I mean, hey, we're having fun with it. The roller coaster celebration.
That was a good one.
That's
That
like
was a
one
good
of
one.
my new all-time favorites, I think. Like it's the group celebration. I think the seatbelt, like when Rob Hunt was like putting their arms out with a seatbelt, that was like so good. Coordination was perfect. So yeah, and looking forward to seeing the Hard Knocks
Yeah,
tomorrow.
they
So
showed that clip of them like planning it out. Did you see that?
yeah, yeah.
The
So
coordination of the seatbelt thing. So
looking
that was
forward
pretty
to
cool.
yeah, looking forward to the tomorrow's episode because I mean last week's one was just brutal. I mean, because they highlighted Jalen Phillips in that episode. It was like focused around him. So they're already taking footage around him. He's having such a good year, all this and that. It's like his breakout into stardom in this league. And then he goes and tears his Achilles, and they showed that whole thing. It made me like sick to my stomach because I was just like, it's like when you watch a horror movie for like the second time or something, and what's gonna happen, and you're just like cringing or like clenching because you know what's about to happen, and that's just how I felt. I felt so sick. And then just to hear like the audio on the field because he was mic'd up too for it. Like I just felt like so heartbroken, so crushed for him. Achilles. So hopefully he gets that Aaron Rodgers rehab and is back sooner than a year. But you know, Achilles is going to be tough either way, right? So just praying for a speedy recovery for him. And uh, yeah, hopefully they can go out and keep winning for him. So overall, yeah, it was a good game, and we're on to Monday night next week. Tua was on the Manning cast. He was like playing the
Who's playing the
guitar,
guitar?
played a little bit of Sweet Home Alabama, um, and yeah, looking good with the cornrows and the do rag. So hopefully we keep it going next week against the Titans. But just got to take care of business because right now they are the number one seed officially in the AFC through was it week 13? Week 13.
Of
So
13. Yeah.
through week 13, Miami Dolphins are the number one seed in the AFC. Um, didn't I honestly didn't think I would be saying that. Honestly, I think I said I could have seen like not like either 8-4 or 9-3 at this point. I think it was probably 8-4 because I thought we would lose to the Jets originally. But yeah, hey, 9-3, looking to make it 10-3 next week. So um hopefully we both our teams continue the winning ways for that Christmas Eve
Yeah.
matchup.
Hey, we're both 9-3 at this point. So
Yep.
let's see it.
Um, but yeah, let's get to some of the other games. So three big games actually. Didn't think we were gonna have this many big games to talk about, but the next one we're gonna talk about obviously was looked to be the biggest game, the NFC Championship rematch from last year. So the 49ers going to Philly, and it was pretty close to start. And then the Niners offense just exploded. The Niners defense started flying around, making plays, really shut down that Eagles offense. But Matt, I'm just curious, what were your takeaways? Because these are kind of the two teams you're stacking your Cowboys up against. So how are you feeling after watching that game on Sunday?
Well, I'll say I'm happy because I got the result that I wanted to. Philadelphia had to lose. to give us some kind of outside shot to win the division. They had to lose this game. So I was happy. I was happy. But I gotta say the Niners look pretty damn scary. I mean, they smacked us, what, 42-10. Now they smacked the Eagles 42-19. You could say that's the two best teams in the NFC. Like, if you're a Niners fan, that's the two best teams you're gonna see possibly, and you just demolish them. So yeah, I think they're scary. They're a scary opponent. Definitely the team that I fear the most. Obviously, they destroyed us this year. They knocked us out two times in a row in the postseason. So yeah, I'm a little worried because they're kind of getting their swagger back, and what I mean by that is kind of everybody's getting a piece of the pie right now. Like, and that's what's scary, right? The Niners, like, okay, somebody's gonna go off. They're too good to not have somebody, have a big day, right? You got McCaffrey, you got Devo, right? Kittle is an all-road tight end. Ayuk is a solid, probably all pro this year, possibly as a receiver. So they have quality weapons. But it's like when they all go kind of crazy, that's when you can't beat them. There's no way. So it's like you got to take away like two, maybe three of them. And I think that was the reason why Philly struggled so much. Debo Samuel, they could not stop him. McCaffrey got going right later in the game. He had his touchdown. Ayuk kind of really was the guy that set the tone, honestly. Like they were struggling, but he was the one that kind of got him out of the fits, right? Purdy found him, a few times to get his rhythm going, and then obviously he took off. Kittle, he had another couple big catches, so Juwan Jennings too. You can't forget about him. Like he had a touchdown. So it's like everybody's getting a piece of the pie. So it's like you gotta take away something. I don't know, if it's McCaffrey, take away Debo. Like you can't have those two guys go crazy. One of them needs to be stopped. So if I'm a Dallas fan, I'm an NFC East contender. I would kind of look into that, like if somebody goes off, whatever, but don't let the rest of the guys go crazy and start contributing too, because then you can't, there's too many guys on the field you can account for. So that was kind of the takeaway as a Dallas fan. I'm trying to look to take away, a couple of their main weapons and make Brock Purdy one dimensional. Because I thought, Purdy struggled in the beginning. I mean, that's the key. You got to get pressure on Purdy and make him uncomfortable. And after that first quarter, he was kind of just chilling in the pocket, just, let me just check it down the Debo. And oh, yeah, he's just going to take it to the house 48 yards. Like, it's just like yak. Throw a
Yep.
screen. Oh, yeah, he's going to take it to the house. I mean, they call them the yak bros. So, yeah, that they're a force to be reckoned with. But the Eagles, it's kind of like what we were kind of saying, what you said that kind of went off on our social media page. It's like, they don't look like a 10-1 team. They really don't. Like there's nothing that indicates that with the way that they've been playing. They haven't been blowing out teams. Now they get blown out at home. And what Eagles team that with Jalen Hurts has 46 yards rushing? 46.
Yep.
That's unheard of. What Eagles team does that? So that's a kind of cause for concern, but I guess you could make a case that they were down, so they're just throwing the ball. But the Eagles, something is not wrong. And I think it's mostly their defense, honestly. Their defense is really gettable. Yeah, they got Shaq Leonard, whatever. He didn't want to come to Dallas, whatever. He doesn't need to come to Dallas. We don't want him anyway. You want to play victim and try to, oh, let me just parade around. Let me get some free meals from Jerry. Yeah, fine, whatever. We'll give you that smoke on Sunday. So look out for CD Lamb and Tony Pollard breaking your ankles on the field. That's all I got to say. But their defense has some question marks. And I mean, they got torched. There's Darius Slay. Yeah, he's an all pro, but I don't think his coverage has been that good. Debo was talking trash about James Bradbury from last year. So,
Mhm.
I
Yep.
mean,
I
they're,
remember
they're
that.
they have the names, but they don't have the things on the field that's backing it up with their play. So yeah, I mean, I got the result that I wanted, but yeah, I had to admit 49ers, I think right now they're the best team in the NFC. I don't think anybody's going to debate that, even though they're one game back still, but it's okay. We still got the result that we wanted. That's that's all that matters at this point.
Yeah, I agree with the fact I think that the Niners, you could argue, are the best team in the NFC, arguably in all of football right now with how they're playing. It looks like they got their groove, their mojo, their swag back, especially to go into Philly and trounce the Eagles like that. Um, yeah, that's definitely impressive. But one thing I kind of want to get a little bit more into that you touched on was the 46 rush yards for the Eagles, right? I think this is the game plan for teams moving forward against the Eagles. You know, if Jalen Hurts beats you with his arm, so be it. I think that's just how you're gonna have to play. Um, because I'm not seeing a lot of like creativity in the routes, I guess, in that game from the Eagles. You know, a lot of the completions, the big plays were like a slant to AJ Brown or Devontae on a hitch or, you know, like stuff like that. Not really scheming guys super wide open, at least from what I could see on TV. You know,
That's a
maybe
good
if
point.
you maybe if you watch the entire tape, it's a little bit different. But just, you know, watching from TV, casual fans perspective, that's just kind of what I saw. So, I mean, 18 rushes for 46 yards. Yeah, that's pretty bad for especially for an Eagles team whose identity really is running the ball. And you look at their two losses now, this Niners one and the Eagles one, Jalen Hurts in each game threw the ball 45 times, right? And so I think if teams can figure out a way to just get points on the board early, force Philly to really throw the ball instead of running it, and play from behind, I think that's kind of the Achilles heel in the offense for the Eagles. So I think that's going to be a focal point for teams moving forward. You know, hey, stop the run first. And I think Jalen Hurts can throw the ball, by the way. I'm not one of those like he's a running back, uh you know, he whatever. I think he has shown much better improvement throwing the ball. I don't think it's necessarily his fault, but I just think with how this offense is set up. Um, okay, sorry about that.
Technical difficulties.
Spectrum as usual, like whatever. Um, like I was saying, I don't know where I got cut off, but pretty much, I think yeah, going forward, you make Jalen Hurts throw the ball. Um, I think he's capable of throwing the ball, but you gotta like the Niners, you gotta take something away, right? One aspect of this offense you need to take away, and I think the way to do it against the Eagles is you take away the run because in their two losses, they threw the ball way more than they ran, and maybe that's just it. And like you said, going to the defense, that front seven I think is pretty stout. Especially the defensive line with how deep they go. Definitely one of the best in football. We've said that all year. But the secondary, like you said, I think they also lost Avante Maddox, who is one of their better corners. I think they lost him pretty early in the year. So they're a little bit, you know, banged up and got exposed a little bit. So we'll see how they adjust moving forward. But I think we're going to start to see that aspect and see if Jalen Hurts can really play up to that MVP caliber level that he was playing at last year, um, to have them win games moving forward. So that was just what I wanted to touch on. I don't know if you had anything else you wanted to add on from
Well,
this one, but
yeah, well, speaking of Jalen Hurts, I think something to look for when they play the Cowboys. I know he came back in the game, but he did leave
oh, that's true.
briefly for what was supposedly a concussion. So that I think that's something to monitor. I don't know. I was kind of shocked how quickly he came back in,
Yeah, that was
especially
fast.
with the score kind of, it's a blowout, right? Why would you want to risk him getting hurt at that point. But I think that's something to monitor throughout the week. I don't know. Maybe a couple hits by Micah Parsons might trigger something. I don't know, but I don't know. That's something to think about.
That's true.
Because if Marcus plays against Dak Prescott, I'm sorry. I know Marcus is from Hawaii, but
Yeah,
I am a Dallas Cowboy fan first. And that's gonna be great for me. But just something to keep an eye out. Jalen Hurts' health is critical for the Eagles season for sure.
I agree. I agree. And sorry, before we do get off the game, we should talk about the incident that happened
That's right.
with Devontae Smith
Oh no, it's
and Drake
Dre
Greenlaw,
Greenlaw.
or
Yeah.
Drake. Sorry, it was Drake Greenlaw shoving Devontae Smith initially, and the Philly. What is his title? What was his title? Like the
He's the head
chief
of
of
security.
security? Yeah,
Yeah.
head, like Big Dom, or what is his name? Like I need to look this up.
Yeah, I'm looking. Oh, look, it's trending on
Yeah,
Twitter.
I think it's like
Dom
Big Dom. Yeah,
DeSandro.
they call him Big Dom.
Yeah.
So I don't even understand what exactly his role is, but apparently, do all teams have a chief of security? I don't know. Like, we're just casual fans, right? I don't know if you knew a little bit more about it, but that was just a weird like situation because he's not a coach, but he's like a staff member of the Eagles, but pretty high up there. And I guess there
Yeah.
are videos of him like, you know, he does his job really well. Like when Jalen Hurts comes through places, he like escorts him, escorts Sirianni places, right? So it's like I don't really know what was going on, but that whole thing was just weird.
It
And
was.
took out like a big chunk of that game when Drake Greenlaw got ejected, and then Big Dom gets ejected too. I was just like, what? I don't even think he meant to like hit like Big Dom in the first place, but his arm kind of just
Like,
like poked him on the nose or
yeah.
like brushed him. That was so weird. That was a weird situation. I don't know. We need to see how things are moving forward because I don't know if Drake Greenlaw deserved to get ejected for that. Like if he hit a ref, okay.
Yeah.
You hit a player, right? You do something like that to a player, you get 15 yards. But I don't know why you get ejected for brushing up with a assistant or
Yeah, but
like
he's
a
not even
staff
supposed to
member.
be like, I feel like he's not supposed to be that close to the field. I think, isn't that the reason why he got ejected?
I mean, I didn't look into it enough to be honest, so maybe I don't know, but I just don't get why in that situation you eject Greenlaw
Yeah,
because
yeah, that's the thing for a game
yeah,
situation.
for
You
a
lose an
game, yeah, the
all-pro
football
linebacker versus
situation,
a security guard.
yeah, and like I don't understand where in the rule book it's like, oh, he made what you make contact with the non like a civilian you can say I don't even know, but non football personnel you get ejected. So what if it was like a fan on the field and they like made contact with them, like you get ejected? I don't. That doesn't make sense to me, right? So any like I get the unsportsmanlike or personal foul, something whatever you want to call 15 yards, okay, warning. But to eject him, yeah, I felt like that didn't make a lot of sense to me. So I don't know, weird situation. We'll
Eh,
see what comes from it
yeah.
because I think
It's Philly. I don't know what's going on over there with those guys.
yeah, that was I don't know, but
Well, I'm glad that didn't impact the game like how we it could have been. It could have been drastic if it was a really close game, right? Say the Niners like they need a stop and I don't know, like their backup linebackers in, he misses a tackle or something. Like, well, what if Trey Greenlaw was in? He would have made that tackle. But
mhm.
I'm glad it didn't come to that. So at least there's not that controversy. Like, well, they ejected our all pro linebacker versus their security guard. And that's the difference in the game. But we don't have that discussion, which is a good thing.
Which is good. Yeah, definitely good because the NFL is taking enough heat as it is with
Yes.
the next game we're
Speaking
going to
of
talk
that,
about.
it's a good transition.
Uh, Officiating again has been in question the entire year. seems like a lot of people on Twitter or X, sorry, have been complaining. They're talking about it on the sports shows, and unfortunately was on front and center on prime time Sunday night football for all the world to see in the crucial moments of the Chiefs Packers game. So before we get to that though, couple things I wanted to point out. Number one, on the Kansas City side, they just don't look the same as last year. I think that's pretty evident as well. Um, the explosion isn't there. They're almost a run first team, I think, at this point now. It seems like that's their most consistent way of getting offense. Travis Kelsey, he's still gonna do his thing, but I don't know if it's age or whatever is catching up to
he
him.
has a partner in life. He needs
I
to
don't know, mate.
give her some attention
I don't
to.
want to say I'm not gonna make any crazy assumptions because it's Travis Kelsey, one of, if not the greatest tight end of all time, with the numbers he's put up in his career, first ballot Hall of Famer, all of that. So I'm not gonna go too crazy. Maybe he's just in a little bit of a slump. Maybe he's banged up and we don't know about what's going on, right? But just not the crazy numbers we're used to seeing, crazy performances we're used to seeing from him. Um, but yeah, outside of that, it's been the same problem all year. Who is their receiver? Like MVS hasn't done much. Rashid Rice has been nice in situations. Uh, Tony, like Patrick Mahomes does not have that guy. Like even last year when they had Juju, right? It felt like a little bit more. He felt a little bit more consistent going to Juju, but he doesn't have that. And Pacheco, I think, really is gonna have to shoulder a lot of the offense until Andy Reid can figure it out. There's just no fun or no creativity that we used to see from the Chiefs. They're not spinning in a circle in the huddle anymore. They're not motioning out. The shovel pass almost got picked. Like the aura of that offense is just kind of gone this year, and they feel really beatable. I still like the defense. I will say I think the defense is still pretty good, but they lost like three or four starters last night, um, or Sunday night. Oh, yeah, last
Sunday
night.
night.
So yeah, I was just I don't know what's going on with that team, but I still think they're really good, but just feel a little bit more beatable this year, I would say. And on the flip side, Jordan Love on a tear now these past three games. It is his first full season, right? Being the starting quarterback for this team. So uh, going through the ups and downs, started pretty good, hit some bumps in the road there in the middle of the season, but these past three games, balling out, and to do it, against Patrick Mahomes on prime time and deliver a performance like that with some of the throws he was making too. I mean, not just playing great football, but Aaron
Does
Rodgers,
he? I was gonna say,
Brett
doesn't he look
Favre
like he's
s
throwing like Aaron Rodgers
throws
off
like
his back
him.
foot?
And it's like it was the two throws, the two like wow throws that really impressed me were like you said, one of them off his back foot, that fourth down when the blitz was getting home, it looked like he just chucked it up, but I mean, fit it to Dobbs within three Chiefs defenders. That to me, I was like, okay, that's a heck of a throw to make in that time, like crunch time, gotta have it moment there. And then to follow it up with the touchdown to Christian Watson. I mean, perfect ball, absolutely perfect ball. Uh, the defender was all over Christian Watson, but he puts it in literally the only place Christian Watson could go up, out jump the defender to go get it. Like those two plays to me, I was like, okay, that was special. That was like special. Um, from Jordan Love. And if we see that going forward, I mean, it just might be another 12-year franchise quarterback for the Packers. Honestly, if he keeps up this kind of play. But, they are 6-6, so I think how they finish out the rest of this year is going to be a big part in his future moving forward with the franchise. But man, uh, I thought, he played a really good game. But unfortunately, we have to talk about the officiating in this one. because it mattered at the end of the game. And I think the two, for me, really big calls were the Patrick Mahomes roughing the or I mean, personal foul, not like the Cincinnati game last year when he was clearly out of bounds when he was shoved. This one still in bounds and takes a big hit, but I mean, he didn't. He could have slid, or he could have, like you got to get out of bounds. That's the defender's going to try to make you not get out of bounds. In this case, I think that was the Simone Biles' husband,
Owens.
Jonathan Owens.
Owens. Yeah.
So he hits him clean with the shoulder to shoulder in bounds. To me, I don't see how that's roughing or a personal foul at all, right? Because what indicated that Patrick Mahomes was giving himself up there? He's going to the sideline at an like a diagonal, and he's not running sideways, to get out of bounds. He's still trying to get yards forward and get out of bounds at the same time. I think what else are you supposed to do there as a defensive player? Because you're kind of in a bind. What, you're just gonna let him get 3 yards, and hey, what if you pull up and he jukes back in bounds, right? Because he's a runner at that point. So you got to try to make a play on the ball. I thought that one was a bad call, but I thought the MVS one was absolutely inexcusable. I mean, you're calling, you know, throwing flags all game, honestly. And then in the most crucial play of the game, with the defender literally piggybacking MVS, reaching over him with his right arm draped around his shoulders, you're not going to throw the flag? Like that one, that's a bad look for
Yeah,
officiating, I think.
that's a
So
bad call.
that one ultimately decided the game because the PI there, they're right there, within in the red zone, ready to go, and I it's just a bad look for the NFL, man. I don't know what needs to change. I don't think okay, the Travis Kelsey one, the shove on the Hail Mary. I don't know what you thought about that, but we see that a lot. It's
They're not gonna call it in a
exactly
Hail Mary because everybody's all bunched up, right, and knocking each other over. So
right.
that's a hard one to make. But yeah, the MVS one. Why is this guy always in the news? Like when it's like game on the line, like a deep ball to MVS, like just kind of seems to be. Is that like their? I mean, I guess it makes sense because they were they needed some chunk plays, but yeah, the NFL got to be more consistent. I don't know if they need to do something where it's like, can you review a penalty? Maybe that's something they need to look into. Like coaches can challenge, they can challenge a catch, no catch, a play on the field. But I don't know. Maybe they should have an option to challenge a penalty.
I
Maybe
agree.
a game that like a new rule they should try to implement for future seasons
Because that
because
that can't
that
happen.
game is that's a on game on the line kind of deciding play, right? And it's not like, okay, the penalties, in the first quarter and whatnot, whatever. But you just don't want a game, one score game being decided by a penalty. That's going to be the difference of a team winning or losing, especially in the playoffs. That's all I got to say. But yeah, NFL, they need to look into something because it just needs to be consistent. That's the problem. If you're going to be bad, call it both ways. It's like the Dallas game, Dallas Seattle. Like everybody's like, oh, Dallas got away with so many things. No, they didn't. Seattle had what 10 penalties. We had 9 penalties. It's not like the Eagles, dare I say, when the Bills have 13 and they have 3 penalties. It's not drastic, right? So if you call it both ways, you can live with it. But yeah, just it can't. That kind of stuff can't happen, especially to decide a game like that.
I agree. Okay, well, let's get to the last game because this is a longer NFL segment. But tonight's game, we had the Bengals at the Jags, and first place in the AFC on the line. I thought it was a shoe in for the Jags, especially with Joe Burrow and with how Jake Browning looked last week against the Steelers. I thought it was going to be a blowout. Um, I mean, I think the spread was like 10 in favor of Jacksonville, but I mean, I gotta tip my cap to Jake Browning because he played a great game, I thought.
He
Uh
did.
did not make any mistakes, I think. Um I thought crazy enough, he might have been limited by the play calling, honestly, with how the game went, you know. But once I think Zach Taylor got comfortable with how Jake Browning was playing, it's like the offensive staff decided, all right, let's let him, go out there and do his thing. I thought he played the perfect game in a backup situation. You make all the right throws, you make all the right reads, don't turn the ball over, let the running game do its thing, and that's what you can do in the NFL, right? You go and steal one from the Jags, who are leading their division, a really good team still, I think. But gotta tip my cap to Jake Browning, the former Husky, because I thought for him to come in that situation, right? You got to think too, the Bengals season, they lose one more game in that case. You drop to 5-7 in the AFC, you might be just done, right? But somehow, some way, he gets the win in Jacksonville and keeps their season alive. They're now 6-6. I mean, they lose Joe Burrow, but still a really talented football team there, can still make some noise down the stretch. I don't know if Joe Burrow doesn't come back and Jake Browning is playing at this level though. Maybe they sneak in. You never know. They're 6-6 now, still got a lot of football left, but I thought the on the flip side, the case of Trevor Lawrence is a bigger deal. We've seen CJ Beathard in the NFL, back up the 49ers. He's played, he's been, around. Maybe he can still get the job done, but to me it feels like that Trevor Lawrence loss is a little bit bigger um than we were expecting, right? Because moving forward now, Texans are hot. The Colts even are one
They're
game
one game
back.
back.
So this division is tight. I don't You can't afford to drop any more games moving forward. And without Trevor Lawrence, I don't know how good, CJ Beathard can do there. I think Christian Kirk went out as well in that one. So it's it's looking a little dire now for the Jags, who have been playing pretty well. I think they won 8 of their last 9 games. So it's looking a little bit hairy for them now. I don't know if they can clinch the division without Trevor Lawrence, Matt. But yeah, just from this game, I guess what you saw. Um, what were your takeaways?
Well, I think Jake Browning, doesn't he remind you a little bit of Cooper Rush? Like, I don't know. He just gives me
Yeah, that's a good
a
one.
little Cooper Rush vibes. I mean, but the thing I think about Cooper Rush is he had weapons. Right? You got CD, he had Amari, he had Cedric Wilson, he had Zeke, he had Pollard. Cincinnati still got their playmakers, and T. Higgins is back healthy. Jamar Chase is still top 5 wide receiver in the league. Tyler Boyd is a quality number 3. Joe Mixon has kind of come to life, after the slow start to the season. So kind of the skill positions are there. So I think if they just kind of play almost like, I would say almost like the 49ers in a sense where it's like you tell Brock Purdy, hey, just get the ball to Debo and let him run. Just let him do the work. In this case, just get it to Jamar. Jamar is athletic enough. He's going to make guys miss. He can beat guys down the field. Just get him the ball. Give him a chance. So if he doesn't turn the ball over, kind of plays that Cooper Rush role, I think you have a compelling case. You brought it up. They can make some noise, I think, because their defense, I still like their defense. They have some quality pieces, especially on the front. Um, so it'll be interesting. I don't know their schedule, but they're not dead just yet. Give it a couple more weeks and we can come back into that. But yeah, Jake Browning definitely a great job. I don't think anybody was expecting this one, but the Jaguars, let's just put it this way. If Trevor Lawrence is not gonna play. If it's like a Joe Burrow injury, he's out for the season. Put a fork in him. I mean, they're not going anywhere. I don't think they win the division if Trevor Lawrence doesn't come back this season. And heck, he might if he misses 3 weeks, 4 weeks, they're probably going to be overtaken, honestly, because they got two teams right on their heels. So I think it's tough. I think it's going to be tough for the Jags. Kind of unfortunate. You go from, oh, if we win, we're going to be the number one seed to now it's like, oh, we got to win just to make the playoffs at this point now because CJ Stroud is coming. Minshew's got that Colts team, clicking on all cylinders now. So yeah, sad times in Jacksonville, definitely. But I guess for your sake, you must be happy with I should say, result with the score of the game, not necessarily the injury.
Definitely happy to be the number one seed moving forward, and some winnable games still. Need to take care of business with the Titans and the Jets, but 11-3 is definitely looking possible. And even if we win one out of the next two or next three after that, the Dallas, or Baltimore, Dallas, and Bills run. I don't know. I think it's possible we could squeak out with the one seed. I think that Baltimore game is going to
Baltimore,
be
that's huge.
huge. That's a huge game now. That game could very well decide first place in the AFC. So as long as we're geared up, we're healthy going into that game, it's going to be a good one because Baltimore wants revenge after last year. They were up 21, I think it was in that fourth quarter. Tua comes back, throws what, like three or four touchdowns in that fourth quarter to win it there. It's gonna be a good game. I'm looking forward to that game. That will be the big test of this team. It's, can we finally get over the hump at the right time, going into the playoffs. So looking forward to that one, but can't look too far ahead. Still got to take care of business these next couple of weeks. But okay, well, that was a lot of NFL talk. We still got college football to get to. So why don't we get to a break here and finish it or talk about some college football on the other side. Okay, so college football playoffs have now been determined with a lot of controversy as we expected, and we got the chaos we were kind of hoping for. The committee definitely was hoping this wouldn't be the case, but we have to talk about it. So, Matt, now after all the championship games have been played, we have our final four. We got Michigan at the one, Washington at the two, Texas at the three, and Alabama at the four. So Georgia out, Florida State out, Ohio State out, and Oregon, unfortunately, with that loss, they're out. Matt, let's get into the weekend. So I don't know if you want to start with Oregon and Washington because that was kind of the win in your in game. We can start with them. Since you're the Oregon fan as well, why don't you just get into that game and how you're feeling now that the season is pretty much wrapped up.
It took me a day, I think, to kind of settle in to the result. But I gotta tip my hat to Washington. Um, they were the better team. They were the better team in the first game. They were the better team in the second game, and they won this game because they were more physical than Oregon. They dominated, and I mean dominated, the line of scrimmage. Offensively, I mean, their offensive line. You texted me on the side. They're the MVPs of this game. Penix was not touched at all. Really, I mean, he got hit a couple times, but really, he had all day to throw. He could go through his reads, have enough time to let your receivers get deep, throw the deep ball. I mean, and you set up Dylan Johnson with chunk runs. And I'm not talking big, exploding, 40-yard runs, but they're getting 4, 5, 6 yards a carry. And it's like over the course of the game, that's gonna wear and tear on you later in the game. And they were consistent with that the whole game. So that was really kind of determining, kind of set the tone standard for Washington. So they came out, they established the physicality early. They put Oregon behind. We're down 20-3. I mean, Oregon's offense was horrendous, really, for a quarter and a half to start. You go three straight possessions, three and outs. I mean, you put your defense back on the field. They're tired, right? Your offense, you got to give them a break a little bit, but they had a drive that lasted 10 seconds of game clock. But that's not winning football right there. That's not complementary football. So you're playing from behind against Washington, you're in trouble because they can beat you both ways. They got a quarterback that can throw it around. They got the weapons on the outside, and they got a nice solid run game now with Dylan Johnson. So it's a recipe for the disaster. I know they came back, ended up taking the lead, which was great to see because Bo Nix, that guy's not going to quit. This is his first championship game. He's going to leave it out on the line, but Oregon did a good job executing the, classic 2-for-1. They get a touchdown at the end of the first half. They get the ball to start the second. They come down, score a touchdown. So kind of gets you back in the game. It's kind of why I always prefer to defer for that exact situation. You can just flip the game. You're getting dominated, but within 2 minutes, you can flip the game and you're right back in the game going for the second half. So that was a great execution. But, the defense to me in that latter half of the game, the fourth quarter, I was like, they just need one stop, one stop. And I was saying, if Bo Nix gets the ball last with a chance to win, that's exactly where you want to be. Right? I don't care the spread was Oregon giving 9. I don't know who made that, but you should bet on Washington because that's easy money. Just take it. But you got to get a stop defense. They had that long drive, right? Oregon, they punt. They need a stop, but you give up a touchdown not only, but you take off 7 minutes of game clock. And then Oregon comes down somehow, miraculously. I don't know. They score a touchdown in 30 seconds. So you give your defense another chance.
That was crazy. I
And
was like, oh, baby.
I was like, this game's over, like whatever. And then I'm like, oh, Trayshawn Holden over the middle. Oh, he's still going. He's still going. Go, go, go. But, it all came down to nothing because, again, the defense, they just needed that one stop. And they had him on 3rd and 4. 3rd and 4, they had him. And I was saying, Kirk Herbstreit was saying, I like Washington to throw a pass here. And I agree. I think college football a little bit different. There's no 2-minute warning. You know who's on the other side. You got obviously a Heisman Trophy finalist now, Bo Nix, waiting on the sideline. Right? You kind of don't want him to get the ball back with about a minute and a half, maybe, of game clock. And you got a quarterback who is another Heisman finalist, Michael Penix. You got a Bolitnikoff Award winner. Jalen McMillan is back. You got Polk. You got 3 weapons. I would throw the ball in that situation. So I think Washington made the right decision. But if you're Oregon, 3rd and 4, you kind of got to expect Washington to throw it just because of who's on the other side. And the fact that they wrote out this horrible coverage that was the thing that blew my mind. How do you allow like 8 to 9 yards of separation from the line of scrimmage when they're just going to throw a short route? If they throw a go route, okay, well, whatever. You got to live and die by that. But you cannot allow them to get like a 5-6 yard completion on a 3rd and 4. Just a simple hit. You just know that it's going to be some kind of route that's short and quick. So you got to get up on the line of scrimmage and check them. And I just thought that was terrible. That was terrible defense. Terrible defense. You cannot do that. Because it reminded me of the Eagles. Bills, right? 3rd and 4, it's like Devontae Smith, right? Oh, they're gonna pass, they're gonna pass, but he just runs a little hitch route because Jordan Poyer is playing like 10 yards off the line of scrimmage in zone. So it's like, what are you doing? So I just thought the defense, we just needed that one stop. We didn't get it. But at the end of the day, Washington, they're the better team. And they somehow got out of the Pac-12 undefeated, 13-0 regular season. Yeah, they deserve to be in the college football playoff to win the Pac-12 this year because the Pac-12, in my opinion, the deepest conference in football. I know people are going to say the SEC, but Pac-12 was loaded this year. Everybody's beating up on each other, and Washington came out of there perfect. So I have no problem with them being in the playoff after the season. And because I picked them, but we can talk about that later.
Yeah. Well, let's get to the final four since that's all the hype and all the talk around those teams now. The two teams snubbed, Matt, Georgia and Florida State. You could argue Ohio State as well, those three. Um, I think the most controversial one we can say definitely Florida State being out. Um, I have so many like different feelings about this one, but I'll start off by saying that I feel so bad for the players,
Mm-hmm.
on that team, the coaching staff, Florida State fans, right? Because, you know, I think it's a slippery slope with how you're going to approach the CFP from now on. I think it is going to have drastic changes to everything from this decision. I'm talking NIL transfer deals and realignments of conferences moving forward. Because, you know, with the how the New Year's Six Bowls were before, right? You had the national championship, yeah, but you know, it was about doing your best in the in your conference, right? And then getting a shot at a New Year's Six Bowl. Like Hawaii, for example, in '08, right? '07, '08. Um, obviously didn't match up well with the big boys, against Georgia, but we went undefeated, had some quality wins in there. And that's what like the magic of college football was, right? The Can that underdog pull off the big upset against a heavy favorite? Now, with this decision alone, um, I think the entire dynamic of college football is about to shift. And the reason I say that is because what message are you sending now to teams, to colleges about who you play? And who you play matters, right? I don't disagree. I think if you're trying to select the four best football teams to play in the CFP, I think they got it right. I'm not unhappy with the four teams that are left, but I just think what it means for the sport going forward, um, it's going to be tough because Florida State, I mean, the players don't get to pick who they play, right? They go to a good school. The ACC, still a Power Five school. You go undefeated, right? You do everything you're asked to do. You beat top 10 opponents. And I believe it wasn't strength of schedule, but like strength of wins or something like that. There was a stat in there where they ranked fifth, compared to their strength of schedule being 55th. Um, it's just a slippery slope. I think now, if you're gonna, highlight the CFP so heavily moving forward in the NCAA, that you have to expand the playoffs. It has to be done. Um, and now you're gonna start to see, maybe the ACC are gonna start to lose some teams, right? Louisville is right there, but Florida State, hey, if we beat everyone in our division, it's not our fault they're not good, right? Um, what incentive does Florida State have to stay in the ACC? And now I think it's going to start to be a trend. ACC, Big Ten, even some of those schools like that can't get in. Pac-12 is already gone, right? I just fear it's going to be like maybe you'll have the Big Ten, Big 12, SEC. Those are going to be the three like just massive regions, um, and they're all going to compete for to get into the CFP because I mean, yeah, they lose Jordan Travis, but they're still an undefeated Power Five school, ACC champs, and that team doesn't get in over a one loss, team from another Power Five division. I don't get it. I mean, I do get it. Sorry, I just think it's gonna bring this crazy situation moving forward for college football, and I feel bad for Florida State. I do. I still think the committee got it right if you're selecting the four best teams right now. You can argue Texas, you can argue Alabama, Georgia, even Ohio State in there. But I don't think Florida State, unfortunately, could have competed without Jordan Travis and how they've looked in their past several games offensively. Um, but yeah, that was just my thoughts, Matt, because like you literally did what you're supposed to do. You won every single game that you played, and you don't even get it. So what does that say about record now? What does that say about teams you play? If you're not in a good conference, what's the point if you can't make it to the CFP, right? So I think it's going to shift the entire dynamic of the CFP moving forward. I think you have to expand.
Yeah. Well, luckily they are expanding next season. It goes to 12. So I think that'll ease some of the pressure off the committee a little bit. But I'll kind of say, you touched on Florida State. I feel for them, but I will say by rule, the committee when they created the 14 playoff, it was about who is just the best four teams. It wasn't necessarily the record, but it's just determining who the best four teams are. And I agree, like it's really a lose-lose, right? I don't know how you can make a right decision in this point, but I think the committee got it basically right. I would say I think Alabama is a better team at this point of the season than Florida State. That it seriously sucks, but it
Yeah,
just
I
comes down
agree.
to that.
I agree.
Alabama, and I think quarterback, now you kind of really know, like, you need a good quarterback to compete for a CFP national championship. All the teams in the playoff this year have, quote unquote Heisman quarterbacks. Michigan with JJ McCarthy. He's a quality college football quarterback right now. Michael Penix for Washington, Heisman finalist. Quinn Ewers has been a top, NFL prospect in this supposed class if he decides to leave. But he's a quality quarterback. And Jalen Milrow has kind of come on, kind of crept a little bit into the Heisman race, not really a finalist, but kind of that second tier after a shaky start. And yeah, I know Jordan Travis. I thought he would have been right there in the preseason, but he's not. He's not there. And we saw Tate Rodemaker. We saw third string quarterback. Yeah, it's not the same. And the argument can be said, oh, well, in 2014, when that year
Ohio
Ohio State
State.
won, they beat Marcus and Oregon. Like, oh, but they had Cardell Jones as their quarterback. He was the third string guy, and how did they get in? Well, the thing is, when Cardell Jones played, did you not see the demolition that Ohio State put on uh who are they playing? Iowa or Penn State in the Big West, not the Big West, Big Ten championship? I mean, they destroyed I think it was Iowa. Flat out demolished them. And it wasn't, yeah, Ezekiel Elliott was the catalyst, but Cardell Jones was making some throws. I mean, he was hitting the deep balls to Devin Smith, hitting Michael Thomas over the middle. So it's like, yeah, they lost their quarterback, but they showed flashes of firepower. And I think that's what the CFP wants to see, right? It's all offense now. You want to see fireworks, you want to see explosive plays. And Ohio State had that. Florida State, not really their thing right now. I think the past few games, it's they win with great defense and field position, run the ball with Trey Benson. And I mean that ACC championship game, honestly, great defensive game, but the quarterback play was atrocious by both teams. It was hard to watch quarterback play. So I think that matters because that's the most important position in football. It's the quarterback. And I don't think you can make a case that Florida State is the best four teams by what the committee says the rules are for the CFP. So hard to say. I mean, you could, but you can also say, well, how do you leave out Georgia, right? You know, two-time defending champs, yada yada yada. But I think the committee did, the best that they could. But I'm glad next year it's going to be a 12-team playoff, and it's going to be interesting because a team like Liberty would have made the playoffs this year, which is crazy because Liberty's playing Oregon in the Fiesta Bowl, and their strength of schedule is low. So it's like, what if Liberty say, next year, or they do this format, right? Liberty gets in the playoff, they play, I believe, Florida State. What if they just get killed? So it's like that's gonna look bad for the non-power five guys, and the committee's not gonna want to put them in. Maybe they change the rules or whatever. So it's a slippery slope, I think. But I think to get the four best teams this year at this point of the season, I think the committee got it right, unfortunately.
Yeah, there was a lose lose, like you said. But we'll see how things play out. It'll be interesting. I think the four games are going to be good. Alabama, Michigan. I think it's going to be a gritty, tough one. Good defense, lots of running. We'll see how that one plays out. And then Washington and Texas, I think the complete opposite. I think it's going to be a
Shootout.
shootout. Yep. Uh, both offenses look really good. Both quarterbacks really good. Both can run the ball pretty well. So yeah, it's gonna be a good one. I guess real quick, Matt, if you want to get to it here, any predictions right now of how you see it playing out? We can also revisit this
Ooh,
if you don't want to do it just yet.
on the spot.
Just like give me your
Mm.
feel. Give me your feel of
Wow. Okay.
what you think.
As of December 4th, as of December 4th.
Yeah, we'll retouch on this,
Wow,
but
that's a tough. Honestly, I'm gonna go Washington. I'll go Washington over Texas. Who this Michigan? I'm gonna pick Alabama over
I think
Michigan.
I'm gonna pick Alabama too.
I'm gonna pick
Unfortunately,
Alabama.
I just can't pick
Alabama.
against Alabama
Yeah,
in
I
the
can't pick. But it's like, but see, like, kind of switching gears. But like, they showed that clip of Michigan, right, when they were watching the
yeah.
selection show, and then when they saw Alabama's name come up, they were like, "Oh, like it's like okay." I bet you they were like, "Give us Florida State." So we can just demolish these guys. Like not
Mm,
like a bye, but it's like, a easier opponent. They were praying for Florida State.
yeah.
And it's like, oh, you like they're already kind of shook already. It's like Alabama's kind of got that intimidating factor back. So I think Alabama and Washington, and then I want to pick. You know what? I'll pick Washington. Pick Washington. A
Washington, the
Pac-12.
champs.
I
Okay.
say the Pac-12 best conference. I'll pick Washington, even though they're the rivals. But I'm going to pick Washington because they have, I think, the best quarterback in the field in the Final Four, Michael
Okay.
Penix. He's the Heisman finalist. I'm gonna ride with him, and I think they have the best weapons too. So that's my early prediction. I will say I did have Washington and Michigan in my initial picks, so at least I got half of the field right
Yeah.
in the
All I got was
preseason.
Alabama, right? And you know
That's
what? I'm gonna stick with Alabama. I think they got hot at the right time. I think they're playing really well. Snap Georgia's unbeaten streak. Jalen Milrow playing much better. Man, he is a difference when he can run the ball and throw the ball efficiently. So give me Alabama. Pretty boring one, but I'll go with Alabama over Washington. I think Washington wins that as well. So that's my right now pick. We'll see how things
okay.
unfold. Just that's just my gut feeling right now. But let's get off college football. Going kind of long with everything else. But UH basketball, I know we're supposed to have Hunter, like we mentioned earlier, but we're Bulls are 6-1. You've been to one or two games now.
I
Got
went to only one, but I went to yesterday's game against Central Washington. It's not Central Washington, Central Arkansas, and they put up 95 points, which is kind of
okay.
insane for UH.
Yeah. So
So
how
the
are we looking?
offense is there. I mean, Noel Coleman, he's hot. 25 points again. But the guy who was kind of stealing the show was actually Juan Munoz. I mean, UH kind of was, they were trailing in the first half, I think by like 7 at one point, and they were kind of like, okay, this is not what we expect. But Central Arkansas has one win here. Like, what's going on? And then Juan Munoz comes off the bench, and he just was unconscious. 5 for 5 from three. I think he had 19 points in the game. He really got the team out of the funk. And then with him kind of shooting the basketball ball, it opened up the inside. Bernardo da Silva and Justin McCoy were getting some nice easy layups. And Munoz, man, he was making some sick passes. He had a nice no look pass to McCoy underneath. So I'm not this. I do this every year, it seems like, but it's like I just like him a little better than Jovan. That's just that's just me. I know they're not gonna bench Jovan right after the season he had, but he's kind of come out on he's a little bit slow, I think. Um, so I think Javon needs to definitely step up his play because I want to see more Juan Munoz now. I want to see more of him. I think he's shooting the ball better. He's obviously coming off of 2 season-ending injuries, so he's only going to get better every game he plays, getting his feet more wet. Um, but I like the passing. Munoz has been able to create some open looks for his teammates, and that's going to be huge because I think their bench is a little, not to say depleted, but they lack a little bit of a scoring, I should say, off the bench. So led by Juan Munoz, I think, BD, Morsek, Herulidev, they need some easy baskets. And if Juan Munoz can set that up for them, this team's going to be pretty good. But I will say the defense kind of got to shaken up or sharpen up the defense a little bit. They're kind of giving up a little bit more points than they normally are last year. Close to 70 points a game, which isn't really UH-esque, really, with Ganot. So I would like to see the defense cleaned up a little bit. But hey, 6-1, kind of what I expected to this point because I didn't think they would beat Utah, but they were hanging in with them tough. But hey, 6-1, they play HPU on Sunday next week. So I mean, it better be HPU. So you can go 7-1 into Nevada the following week, the game before they play the Pilots. So a possible 8-1, 7-2 going into the Diamond Classic is pretty encouraging. So yeah, I think they'll get better as they play into the season. But yeah, so far so good. Hey, 6 out of 7 is a good start. So I don't think you should really anybody can complain too much about that.
Oh yeah, definitely looking good moving forward here. I think yeah, it'll be interesting. Hopefully this team goes a little bit farther than previous teams. Just leave it at that. Anyway, a little bit of baseball talk before we wrap it up. Juan Soto to the Yankees starting to heat up now, as well as Yamamoto to the Yankees. So those two have been linked pretty heavily. Sounds like the Yankees are aggressive. I'm sure you're happy about those two names. Um, if you could get one of them, I'm sure you'd be more than happy. Uh, but yeah, I think the Soto one would be huge, lefty bat. He's still young. That short porch and right kind of just spells for a perfect pairing for the Yankees. And Yamamoto, uh, 25 years old, like we've discussed, to get him at that age coming out of Japan is pretty rare. And with his stuff, I mean, it's kind of crazy to think he's 5'10", so he's like a little bit taller than me.
He's my height.
He's like your height, but he throws 99 off the mound.
Yeah. So he throws
Uh,
about 30 to 40 miles faster than I do.
yeah, that's kind of ridiculous. So, um, it'll be interesting. I think his game will translate pretty well. Um, and I know the Yankees are going all in on him. But yeah, something to look out for. We'll see if Cashman can pull it off,
They
I
they
guess.
need I don't want to sound desperate, but they need both of them. They
Both of
really
them?
do. Yeah, because
Can
they
can
have
you
so many
afford
home.
both of them though?
I don't care. Like play. pay the luxury tax. You're the New York freaking Yankees. Like, if the Dodgers can do it, why can't we do it? We got money too. You're a big market team. Like, I don't know why the Yankees they try to be like the Rays and like, I get it, Moneyball-esque, but isn't that your advantage? Like, you're not the Oakland A's short on cash. Like, you got money. Use that to your advantage. Get the big stars. And it's like whatever they're asking for Soto. I'm not saying just whatever they ask, but it's like if you got to go a little bit over to what they're asking, come on. It really like is Johnny Burrito gonna be the difference between us keeping or getting Juan Soto? Like that should not be the difference. Like Juan Soto is a generational talent and he's 25 years old. So he's gonna be in his prime for another 7, 8, 9 years, maybe, if you re-sign him, which you better if you trade for him. But you gotta get him. Gotta go back to being the bad boy Yankees because other teams are doing that. I mean, the Blue Jays getting Otani, maybe. I don't
No,
know.
no, 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 no. Let's calm down there.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you want to talk about Otani, uh, I've been hearing all kinds of stuff linked to the Blue Jays. I hear, oh, the Giants have an upper hand on him. Oh, the Angels still are, well within the running. He's gonna decide this week. Oh, now he's not gonna decide until after the winter meetings. Like too much speculation, I think. And with Otani, if like he said, if teams info gets leaked, that's a bad thing. He doesn't want it getting out, right? About his decision. So I'm going to be extremely patient with this one until I see the news. I literally, even if it's, rumors to the Dodgers, I'm not paying any attention to anything because I don't know what's real and what's not anymore. Seen so many conflicting leaks or quotes about where he's going to go and how the meetings are going, so I'm not even going to give it any of my attention at this point. Just hoping to see that breaking from Jeff Passan, Shohei Otani to the Dodgers. When I see that one, all right, then I'll know it's for real.
No, it's
But
gonna be John Heyman,
oh
Shohei
god,
what's a O Otan, Shohei
Otan,
Otan to the Giants.
yeah, no thank you, I would not like that. I'd be very upset about that. uh but we'll see how things go. A couple other ones. Severino goes to the Mets. Yeah,
That's
I
a
mean,
Yeah, I mean,
mm,
sad because he's a lifelong Yankee, but I mean,
yeah, it was
he got pretty,
time. It was
yeah,
time
the
to
injuries
go.
kind of caught up. It was time to go, but I have no bad feelings against Sevy. I mean, he gave us everything. I mean, he was an energizer on the mound, so I truly wish him the best because I really like seeing him play in Yankee Stadium. He was
Yeah.
perfect character. So kind of sad to see him going that way, but yeah, the injury is just kind of catching up to him. So that even more so, that's why we need Yamamoto. We lost the guy in the rotation.
Well, there's another international bat that looks like is becoming available. Jung Ho Lee, I believe, from the
The
Korean
KBL.
Baseball League. Uh, One of their best players. I don't know how old he is though. I wasn't able to see how old he is, but he has a little bit of experience there. One of the best hitters. He'll be another Ida or another one to keep your eye on moving forward. And real quick on my Dodgers, sounds like Mookie Betts gonna play second base every day. I don't know if you heard about that from Dave
Yep,
Roberts,
Dave
but
Roberts.
uh, it's always tough. I mean, he is going to be good at second base, but he's a gold glover in right field,
Yeah.
right? Like he's a gold glove outfielder. I get we re-signed Jason Hayward, but man, I just if we could have found an everyday second baseman and leave Mookie out in right, I might have been leaning a little bit more towards that. But we'll see. We'll see how things go. Still got a lot of winter meeting left to go. So yeah, it's getting a little bit long here, Matt. So why don't we touch on some of our usual segments? Who is our foolish fool of the day?
Yeah, our foolish fool is the Oklahoma State student body. And what I mean by that is, all the frat students at Oklahoma State. What are you guys doing? I mean, it's if you guys didn't hear, they came out with a report that they found a dead Longhorn corpse on the front lawn of a frat house at Oklahoma State prior to the Big 12 championship against Texas. I think that's a little too far. Like, I mean, it's just sports, guys. Like, we don't need to kill things with life. I mean, it's
That's
not that.
sad.
It's that's a little too far. And I think it's funnier in a sense because Texas whooped them. So it's like you guys trying to, party and I don't even know, like celebrate your team, but it's like you do know that football players run on emotion and run on motivation. And if you do something like that, that's only going to fire them up even more. So why would you even think that would help your team in the first place? But to even kill something for a
Yeah.
football game, that's outrageously stupid. I
Yeah,
gotta say.
whoever did that,
So,
that's sick, man. Come
all you
like
frat guys, like, what are you guys doing? Come on, you guys gotta to be better. Be better than that.
I
So
agree.
that's my foolish fool of the week.
Okay. Yeah, it was a little slower week for Hawaii. But I will say, State of the 808, happy birthday to Max Holloway. It's his birthday today, so always gotta shout out Max whenever we can. One of the champs from Hawaii that we like to talk about. I don't know who he's gonna fight soon because Volk is fighting Topuria, so I don't know. It'll be interesting, but always shout out to Max whenever we can. Happy birthday to him. Hope he's doing good. But that's my kind of state of the 808 update today. Other than that, Matt, why don't you take us home with our sports fact of the day?
All right, we are recording on December 4th, and we'll go back to 1987. And a guy by the name of Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, kind of one of the greatest basketball players of all time. He had a double-digit scoring streak of 787 games, and it came to an end on this day against his old team when he was on the Lakers against the Bucks. Kind of ironic there. And then his streak lasted for about a decade until somebody by the name of Michael Jeffrey Jordan broke that streak to no surprise, until another guy named LeBron James broke that streak. So kind of full circle, goats beating each other's records. But Kareem, yeah, crazy, 787.
Okay.
He has a lot of the records in the NBA, but
Mm-hmm.
I know he's still pretty sour about losing that all time scoring record to LeBron. I know that stings, but hey, to score double digits, 787 games in a row, that's insane. That's truly insane. So
Yeah.
shout out to Mr. Skyhook, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
All right. That was a good, nice little basketball one to get in there. Um, okay, Matt. Well, that'll wrap up our podcast here. Still got, still coming down the home stretch of the NFL season. So we'll have more of that to talk about next week. Hopefully, maybe we can get Hunter on. If not next week, then the following week, but would still like to get him on to talk some UH stuff. Um, but yeah, other than that, as usual, thank you everybody for taking the time to listen, to watch us, Spotify, YouTube, all that stuff. Have a good week, have a safe weekend, and we'll see you guys next week.